Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Fantasy Soccer Podcast. My name is Andrew Laird, Senior Soccer Editor of RotoWire, joined once again, the final time for the Euros, joined by Ryan Belongia to talk about Sunday's Italy-England final. Ryan, we finally made it, and I think this might be the toughest slate of the entire season, or the entire tournament.
Yeah, it's been a fun tournament. Now we get the final. 100K to first on DraftKings. I was trying to remember. I couldn't remember what the Champions League showdown was, but is this the first time there's ever been 100K to first for soccer?
We were talking about this in the Discord, and somebody thought that maybe the Women's World Cup final was 100,000 because DraftKings really went out for that. So I think we have had 100K to first. I actually want to think that maybe one of the random showdowns they had, as COVID was hitting, we had, I think there was a 50K to first for a Turkish Super League match because it was the only thing left. And there might've been one for a Liga MX, but we don't get 100K often in soccer. We'll put it that way.
No. So just a little bit about that. I had two people just randomly say something to me along the lines of, there's so many people in this tournament and so many people are going to put in 150. They were saying, should I just play something smaller buy-in, smaller field? And I say absolutely not. This is the time to take a chance. That there aren't a lot of 100K to first in soccer, even 50K to first. These are big tourneys. We don't get these very often. And I just say you're much more likely to win one of these showdowns with a few lineups than, huge field, NFL, GPP, or MLB, GPP. Bad lineups win showdowns all the time. So take a few chances. It's the right time to get lucky. Yeah,
we've got 19,607 possible entries in this. It's a 150 max, which is what you get when you have tournaments this big. How many of what percentage of lines do you think are realistically dead right away?
That's a good question.
The way that I look at this, when you have this many lineups and a tournament this big, we get a lot of casual people who don't play and who don't play soccer usually, but you see 100K to first and you're like, all right, I'll throw some in. Some people will throw 150 in, you just do a optimizer and spit out 150 and play it. But there are going to be a lot of lineups that really have no chance. And so I always look at it maybe you don't have to beat 19,000, but if you only have to beat 14,000, makes it a little easier, right?
Yeah. There's always plenty of dead lineups. That's a good way to think about it too. So if you just know what you're doing a little bit, it's pretty easy to make decent lineups. And these showdowns, they're so variable. I think there's less dead lineups than people think, to be honest. Okay. Just with these soccer showdowns. Unless I'm trying to think maybe captaining center backs and leaving salary on the table. Lineups like that are dead. But it's hard to be dead
in showdown.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though. I'm not sure.
I'll put it this way. I think there are going to be enough people who don't know about starting lineups and don't check their lineups, or, and we've talked about playing subs before, but if you're playing 2 and 3 of them, you're probably not realistically.
What I will say is there'll be plenty of lineups that don't correlate or just aren't good lineups, or that are close to dead. Totally dead is tough to say, but there'll be plenty of bad lineups. So that's something that's for sure true, and that's always good.
Yeah. So obviously, with a final like this, it's going to be expected to be close. We got England as a slight favorite, but the game is basically a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that just automatically makes people want to build 3-3 lineups?
Yeah, I think I think the game being somewhat of a toss-up will lead to more balanced builds like that. I was wondering why you said that you thought it was the toughest of the showdowns.
I think it was because there's so many ways you can go. And I felt like the other showdowns, it's like we knew kind of where the cash lineups were going to be, and we knew how to differentiate in tournaments. And this one, it's like, I feel like if it's going to be level, then yes, I think people will want to build 3-3 lineups. And I guess theoretically, the way you get out of that is play 5-1 and leave a bunch of salary. But it just feels like at every spot, there's somebody from the other team I could play. And it's like, oh, I think this is going to be even. And then it's like, oh, I have a 5-1 lineup that probably doesn't work if I think this game is even. And so I don't know. I just felt like I was constantly like tinkering. Maybe that's what it was. I just couldn't like make up my mind.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many options, and you're right. The 2v2s and 1v1s that there's basically no difference between. Yeah, I see what you're saying. To come to final decisions is tough. Just like a quick breakdown of, I guess, the lineups and I get how we see the game going. I think these lineups are pretty nailed on. Like Italy, I would expect to be unchanged. So we can go with that lineup. And England, I think 10 of their spots are for sure. The only one being the Bukayo Saka's position.
Yep.
For England, Kane and Sterling, they're likely to go 90 minutes. The other attacker is probably going to get subbed. All three of Italy's attackers are up to be subbed. And just like to a starting point to build lineups, like who do you think has the highest floor on the slate?
I think it's Mount, to be honest.
Okay.
Like I think it's basically between Mount and Insigne.
Yeah.
But I think it's Mount.
I think it's Mount too. So like Mount, is the quote unquote best play, on the slate. He's cheaper also. I think, you could do a lot worse than just putting Mount in your lineup with one of the keepers and find the goal scorer. And, you can just go from there. So I think that will be like a starting point. And then we can talk about some ways to differentiate.
Yeah, I think from a cash perspective, Mount's by far the most popular captain. And it's basically, if you think England wins, and it doesn't even really matter, but I think people who side with England are going to play Mount captain, and people who think Italy win will play Insigne captain. And then you just kind of, the salaries are very different. So you kind of have to just work from there. But I think those two are going to be by far the most popular in cash.
Yeah, me too. So it's kind of tough then after that, where, how does the rest of the cash lineup build out?
So I think people will start Mount Insigne. Mm-hmm. And I think Verratti also gets a decent amount of attention because you're just looking for set pieces. Mm-hmm. And so the game is not expected to be high scoring. I mean, both of these teams have been very good defensively, and they've sporadically kind of exploded for big scores, but like, this is not the game. Like, I don't see 3-0, 4-0 on in any way in this game.
Right. We should say that the total is like going under 2 right now. So that's very low.
Yeah. And granted, that's for 90 minutes. So, and if it is scoreless, we're going 120. So we have to know that. But yeah, so without that many goals, even in tournaments, like, floors become pretty important if there aren't that many goals to be scored. And so if you can kind of lock up the set pieces with Mount, Insigne, and Verratti, then I think people go there. I don't think Verratti will get enough captain attention, but I wouldn't fault anyone for doing that in cash.
No, I agree. Yeah, Verratti seems like the next guy in. Maybe people will go to Luke Shaw also. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I see you can. Oh, well, with the Mount captain. Yeah. What do you think about goalies? Goalies, like, do they get played in these, or how often, or do they get played in cash?
In really lopsided games, obviously the favorite will get played plenty. And I guess it was Italy, Spain that we were talking about, that we had plenty of talks about both goalkeepers, and both of them were fine in that game. Like, it went to penalties. And so in that situation, like, the goalies usually work out. And so I think you could definitely see double goalie lineups in this game. If, like, you can get set piece takers and the goalies and hope for 0-0. And I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. Yeah. I think double keeper can even be in play for GPP. I was playing around with it. There's plenty of scenarios that double keeper can end up optimal, especially like you said, if it goes 0-0 to extra time, which is at least somewhat likely in this matchup. The way the teams have been playing, the low total, you can see it being sort of a cagey stalemate for a while, and I don't think either manager would mind that.
Totally agree. Like, I think certainly with Southgate, it feels like not conceding is going to end up being a priority. And, if Mancini feels the same way, then yeah, we're just going to see a lot of passing and just waiting for somebody to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. And these are arguably the two best teams in the tournament since the last one's left. And so there may not be that many mistakes. So it's just going to be a lot of, passing.
Yeah. So for tournaments, I was starting, I think if you're looking for just the most likely lineup to win, like, I was building some 1-0 lineups with the set piece taker and with a keeper, and either captaining a goal scorer or captaining the keeper. I think both keepers are great captains on this showdown. If one of them gets a clean sheet, like, they're very likely to end up as the winning captain. And I don't think, the floor points besides Mount, they're not guaranteed. Like, you can see them going a lot of different ways, and especially in this game where maybe one team isn't going to be just on top and racking up points. I feel like it could be a lower scoring slate overall. So I'll keep that in mind when I'm making lineups also.
Who are the guys?
Sorry. One, like, something that comes to mind about the Denmark England game. Like, people played, including myself, like, for instance, Striger Larson over Højbjerg. Now, Højbjerg had 10 floor points in the first half, but so I know this is like a bit results orientated, but guys who are going to get subbed, and like, especially the fact that they were on an underdog, or that Denmark was an underdog, like, I made such a mistake, like, playing a guy for a floor that's not even a safe floor, instead of taking like a lower owned central midfielder who's going to play 90 minutes, and it might even be like a better environment for picking up fantasy points. So like, really have like a game script in mind, like we say.
Is this where you start talking about how much you like Jorginho?
Well, he's still due for that pen.
He was absolutely ice cold in that shootout. So I have to imagine he takes if they get one.
He also had 8 interceptions against Spain, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, no, I like Jorginho. He's I would say, out of Italy's front 6, he's the most likely to play 90 minutes also. And he's the cheapest, and he probably has pens. Like he seems like a really good play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy that when I play, sometimes I'll want to captain him, but I don't think you need to. Like sometimes I might have tried to force it when it's not necessary, because it might not help you afford anything else, but he also might not end up as the highest score, even if he does score a pen. And then there's the other thing, like you wouldn't want to waste like a good Jorginho floor game in the captain spot because you captained him hoping for the pen. Like he's 4K, so he can just get there without his pen easily. Like he's a decent play on his own.
I mean, does the penalty just put him in a totally different tier than Phillips and Rice, who I think we also kind of expect to play plenty of minutes?
Yeah, I think so. I think like he's a better play just in a vacuum. I don't have too much interest in Rice or Phillips. It seems like they have to be involved in a goal. Like they almost have to pick up an assist. I mean, it's likely one of them goes 120 minutes and they can get there with the floor, but I don't love it.
I think that's reasonable.
I mean, what do you think? Do you like one of those guys, or am I writing them off?
No, I wish you made a case for them, because I was not going to make a case for them. I think the case is that if a lot of people like Jorginho at 4K, then Rice and Phillips at 36 and 34 respectively is not that different. I mean, obviously if Jorginho scores, it's well different, but I don't know. I think the reason that you can play them is because I don't think a lot of people are going to play them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree with you even more if Jorginho is going to be crazy popular. That seems kind of hard to expect, but yeah, he might be like way more popular than those two. And then sure, it makes sense. I feel like Declan Rice is more likely to come up with a goal. I don't know. Sounds like it sounds funny to say because he's not very likely to come up with a goal, but he's at least in there for set pieces, and he rips some long shots like occasionally. So yeah, if you're going to take a shot on one of them, I slightly prefer Declan, but I don't know. You can make the argument either way.
I think Jorginho's ownership comes down to lineup construction, and that if you start trying to get, Insigne, Kane, Mount, Verratti, like if you're paying up for a lot of guys, you need somebody cheap. Jorginho at fourth, is $1,000 more than the minimum. I think the cheapest guy that will play is Bonucci at 3,000. And it's kind of like the difference between Jorginho and Bonucci is certainly upside is much different considering the penalty possibility. So I think Jorginho ends up being a popular guy to just like, I need one cheap guy. Let me play Jorginho because it doesn't feel like a total punt.
Definitely. Yeah. If I wasn't considering lineup constructions or anything, yeah, Jorginho is like the best play just to be able to fit whatever you want to fit.
Right.
And he fits in almost any lineup construction too. Like you can make an argument that he gets there in almost any scenario over these similarly priced guys. So yeah, I agree with you. He should be pretty popular for that range.
Right, for that range, sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are plenty of lineup constructions where you're not in that range, and so it's not like we're going to see 60% Jorginho or something.
Right, right.
But I think a lot of people do like to do those, top heavy lineups, and usually there's one guy that like sticks out, like we were talking about on the England-Denmark slate, that like John Stones and Maguire were cheap, and Maguire kind of like fit in a lot of just options when you could pay down. And I think Jorginho kind of fits in that spot in this slate.
I agree. So just another random thought I had out of, let's say like the top 8 players. And what I mean is England's front 3, Italy's front 3, and then Mount and Verratti. Who do you think's the lowest owned of those 8?
I think it's
Or
either
the lowest 1 or 2 guys.
It's either Saka or whoever that spot is.
Mm-hmm.
Saka or Sancho, I think, is the lowest.
Okay.
And the next lowest, I think, is, I want to say Chiesa, because I think people like the upside of Immobile. Insigne, I think, is going to be very popular. I think Kane's going to be popular. I think Sterling will be popular. Verratti and Mount. Like, I think Chiesa kind of goes a little overlooked, which is nuts because he's really, really good.
Yeah.
But I think I just don't see him being more popular than those other guys.
Okay. I ask, because I think it's always a good option to just go with who's ever going to be the least popular of those guys. If you're just having trouble making a decision, I mean, 'cause to be honest, they're all similarly likely to score. I mean, we're not playing this showdown over and over and over again. We're just playing it one time. So like it's more beneficial to get the least popular guy. I thought that it might be Immobile when I asked you the question, just because he's 1,400 more than Chiesa, and we've seen Chiesa score a few goals recently. We've seen him play more minutes. So yeah, I was gonna say like Immobile or by that same logic, Chiesa. They seem like decent, not contrarian, but like for that range, captains or just guys to take some chances on.
Yeah, I'll say if it's not Chiesa, it's Immobile.
Yeah,
because there's no way Immobile is more popular than Kane or Sterling, or Insigne.
Mm-hmm.
And
or
so,
Mount.
I mean, maybe I'm overrating how popular Verratti is going to be, but that price just makes it seem pretty easy for how well he's played.
Yep. Nope. I'd agree.
But the thing is, it feels like a goal, and the expectation is there are not many of them, but a goal comes from someone in that group. Unlikely Mount and Verratti, but it could, still could be theoretically, but it does feel like one of the front 6, meaning front 3 of Italy and England, is this goal scorer, unless you start playing the sub game.
Yeah.
Which I think is viable too.
Yeah, I think the sub game's viable too. We can maybe talk about that towards the end. It's a little tougher with England. As far as like some other captains, or I guess definitely some more contrarian captains, I gotta mention Barella again, especially after he won me that Belgium showdown. But he's probably the most likely to score out of Italy's midfield, and he's relatively cheap. Like, I think of people might not like to think of it this way, but I see like Barella having, a similar amount of chances as Immobile or like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's only a few good chances in these games. You don't know who they're going to fall to. And like the ownership, like it just never reflects that. He's way cheaper. And I don't mean to just single out Immobile. It could be any of these guys. I don't think people consider it enough.
I think that's absolutely reasonable. I mean, you just look at the anytime goal scoring odds. He's basically in that same range as Saka and Mount. He's ahead of Jorginho. So he's definitely in that it could happen range for sure.
Definitely. So I don't mind that.
So are you more willing to play Belotti over Immobile? Like, it sounds like you really don't want to play Immobile.
No, I don't like. No, I don't like these are the like spots like that are like, there's normally, I feel like that's where like the edge is in fading guys like that. But that's why he's going to be low owned, because sort of everyone does. I mean, most of the time he's going to put up not a great floor and get subbed off early. England are hard to score against, and Immobile with at that price tag, he's just like only going to be on the winner if he gets an assist. I mean, he got an assist against Spain and still wasn't on the winner. So, I mean, those are the spots to fade. Now, if the ownership gets low enough, then I hop back on guys like that. But then I'm doing it just for those reasons. In like a vacuum, yeah, those are the guys that I try to avoid playing.
That assist was also outrageous. There's no way.
Outrageous. Yep.
It's days later and they haven't corrected it, and I still can't believe
I know.
they've just given up. But ridiculous. So we were talking about how difficult subs are for England. Part of that is like we expect Kane and Sterling to play as long as possible. They've been their best attackers. So then with Saka, if he starts, it could be Sancho. I think I saw that Southgate is yet to use the same an unchanged lineup, and the Saka spot seems to be the one he would change. Like I guess Trippier at right back, maybe like for Walker, but like Walker's played so well recently that I just don't see that happening.
Yep.
So would you take a shot on Sancho if he doesn't start, or any of the like Calvert-Lewin or Rashford?
This is what I'll say about England. It's just so hard to know who's going to come in. Southgate, it's so unpredictable. So what? I think it was like terrible what he did to Jack Grealish last game. There was no reason to take him. I mean, you could sure make whatever argument you want. Like it's a 1-goal lead. Like keep the lineup out there. That's best for not allowing a goal. But even then, like Grealish can be out there with how good he is at holding the ball up and drawing fouls. But anyways, my point is, if Grealish doesn't start, he's like a lock to come on. At least I think so. I can't see how he leaves Grealish off, especially after that. And Grealish playing well. So I think you could go there for a sub. I prefer going to Italy, guys, because it seems like they're more likely to come on earlier, and you're basically sure that Berardi and Belotti are going to come on if the scenario calls for it.
Right.
So I would feel safest going with those guys. Then yeah, I don't, Sancho, how do you pick between him or Foden or any of them, Rashford, Calvert-Lewin? I don't know. It's like I can't even really give a recommendation. I don't see Calvert-Lewin coming on with Kane out there, unless they're down and chasing. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we're ignoring that Jordan Henderson is probably going to be a sub, and there's no way I play Jordan Henderson. So, I mean, I can't fathom him coming on and taking a shot. That's how I look at it.
I'll give one for you. This is like a deep play. I almost shouldn't even give this one away, but we've been talking about like subbing, using these expensive or forward type players on subs. There's like a different situation where you can use subs sometimes, and I'll use Tottenham as an example. There was a lot of showdowns this year where Lamela was basically min price, and that's the same price as like Harry Winks and Tanganga and even Højbjerg, and just like terrible plays that are not even going to score 5 points. So you can bring on a sub like that and not even need a goal, especially like depending when they come on. An assist would be enough. But anyways, back to Italy. Pessina is 4K, and he's got goals in him, and he's pretty likely to come on. And you can use a cheap sub, and it will like barely even affect your lineup. So a play like that, I don't mind.
That's fun.
I mean, again, these are, long shots.
I mean, subs generally are anyway, so.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. So you're already taking a big risk.
Yeah, I guess, the England thing obviously makes it tougher. Does it also just push you towards, or like fading Kane seems like an easy contrarian move. Like I expect Kane to be, he should be popular. Like in this game that's low scoring, he has the best goal scoring odds, even if they're not even that good. But like people should be playing Kane. So like, but does the lack of a clear sub for him just make us play that chalk?
Yeah, I mean, Kane seems like a pretty good play, all things considered. He 90 minutes, and he's shown a much higher floor recently too. I mean, his floor might be, similar to Insigne's. I don't know, so yeah, he's a good play. I mean, he has penalties, although, I mean, what a terrible penalty he took against Schmeichel. That was, England did not deserve that. We could have talked about that game a little. Do you think that was a penalty?
No.
Okay, yeah, me either.
But I think that move gets called a penalty enough that, like, I don't blame Sterling for doing it.
No, like, I don't either. It's just,
what actually blew me away is that they reviewed it and kept it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the commentary and the pundits over here have just been unbearable. I mean, every single one of them is just like use the word deserved to describe, England's win. Gary Lineker, he tweeted something like this, like Sterling, it was one of the best games of all time from someone in an England shirt. He used the word stunning. And then he tweeted out a video saying that it could have been called a penalty in 2 different spots. And I mean, I looked at that video 50 times. I thought he must be joking. Sterling didn't get touched until he took too big of a touch and started to go down on his own. I mean, it's just never a pen. And then I saw like Jamie Carragher, actually, he wrote a full article. And the word he used, not more than just a tweet, he had to go full article. The word he used was streetwise about what Sterling did. And I mean, I can just see if he had done that playing for City against Liverpool, Carragher would have absolutely slated him. I mean, you could see him even saying that he should be dropped from England, doing stuff like that. So it's so funny to see. I thought Kane, I didn't think Kane's wasn't a penalty either. I saw people saying that Kane got fouled in the first half. I didn't think that was a penalty either. Kane looks for those. He initiated the contact. Yeah, I don't know. That was just really annoyed by that England win. And then Kane steps up to take the penalty. He's not confident enough to hit it hard to the left like he normally does. Schmeichel knows this, makes an easy save. I mean, deserved. You talk about undeserved. That's what I thought. It was so tilting, man. I mean, and Denmark, a free kick like that from Damsgaard. I mean, that deserved to win a game.
Yes, yeah. As somebody who had more Schmeichel captain lineups than anything else, the concession was a bummer. I'll put it that way.
It was, and he still ended up as the winning captain.
Yeah. Not enough. Yeah, I didn't have enough Kane.
Yeah. But anyways, we got a good matchup. I'm a little biased on this one. I made a small pre-tournament bet on Italy to win, so I'll definitely be pulling for Italy.
So you usually make like 20 lineups for showdowns?
Yeah, like I'm gonna make more for this one. Probably 40 or 50.
And is it really just expanding the player pool, or is it just more combinations of what you would have played with 20?
That's a good question.
Like we always talk about with like Showdown, like you can't play everybody.
Yeah.
And so if you can't play everybody, then if you're saying I'm going to go in and make 20 lineups, is there like not, and obviously every slate is different, both with the game scenario, the players that are involved, the prices, but like, do you generally have a range of players that you want to play, and do these bigger ones then force you to expand it?
That's a good question. Yeah. So usually, I wouldn't like expand it that much, and I just make more combinations of what I like. For this one, with first place being so much, and with it being being more unpredictable, I will spread it around a little more. I don't mind spreading it around a little more. I mean, just give yourself like as many lottery tickets as possible. Basically is sort of how I think about it. So if I'm like adding a few extra lineups, I'll add some guys that I wouldn't play if I was only playing 20 lineups, for instance. I think, with first place so big, it's not bad to have a little more exposure, just in case. We see crazy stuff happen all the time.
Yeah, I guess like not to have you give away your lineups here, but like who is the type of player that you probably wouldn't have played if you were making 20, but now that you possibly are making 40,
that's a good question. Yeah. Okay.
Like you already like Barella, and like does Locatelli, if he starts, all right, he's probably not even going to start, but like you're not playing Declan Rice now that you're making more lineups. Like I feel like he's the kind of player that like if you were gonna, maybe he was already in your 20 lineup.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. That's a decent one. Like, yeah, you could end up with like one or two Declan Rice. Yeah, like expanding lineups. It's also where like I would end up with, let's say I full faded Immobile playing 20 lineups. If I played 40, I mean, I'll add a few captains in then, like just because like you'd hate to get burned going full fade on a goal scorer. So if I had any plans to be way under on some of the front three, I'll get them into a few lineups with like my main core, just in case.
Right. You do those by hand?
Yep, I do them by hand. I can hear Jordan like making fun of me in my head right now about hand builders, but I think for soccer, I think for soccer, I think I heard you say it. Building these lineups is a little bit more art than science.
I believe that fully. Like, not to say that you can't.
You could use an optimizer to spit out lineups, and if I did that, I would put in my own projections, so like adjust projections to the way you see the game going, like that. Yeah, sure, you can do that, but I like hand building these lineups, and I can do it pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much have always hand build lineups. I don't think I've ever made more than 20, and even that was like overwhelming to me. So
sorry, give me 1 minute. Just get a drink of water.
Yeah, the whole idea of people making lineups is just, or not using an optimizer for 40 lineups is just nuts. But
okay,
theoretically,
what were you saying?
Like, the idea of making like 40 lineups all by hand and then trying to figure it out, like on a classic slate, it just seems nuts to me. But Showdown, like we basically know the lineups. It's not like, for this Showdown at least, we're not like expecting any huge lineup changes where like it drastic.
Right.
We're not expecting Kane to be benched. And so
yeah, to be honest, like you pretty much know the lineups. You've already played around with salaries and where things fit. Like I can finish building 50 lineups by hand and still have a half hour left. And it's just like it ends up being like that when you've made so many lineups and know what you're doing.
Right. Do you think You think we get a unique winner? Like we kind of didn't talk about how important uniqueness. I mean, we did a little bit leading up to it, but with a tournament this big, how much like should we be thinking about uniqueness?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'll say the same thing that I said last time, but with 100K to first, tying with a few people is perfectly fine.
That's fair.
So like if you just, it depends what your goal is when you play, but if you just are making a few lineups and tend to go like, I don't know, the more chalky route, it's not the worst thing to chop with a bunch of people, but yeah, like there'll probably be some lineups that are going to be duped like a lot. I don't know, 50 times at least. I don't know. I try to avoid those lineups.
Yeah. I would say for people who are playing cash, there's going to be like realistically on this slate, I think there's only a handful of reasonable cash lineups. And so if you're in like a double up of 23 people and there are like 15 of the same lineups, like I'm not even sure you're going to be able to double up in all of your double ups because there are going to be more people with shared lineups that, your $10 is going to turn into 15.
Yeah, that seems pretty likely. I've never played Showdown Cash, but I can imagine that would be the case on this slate. Do I think we're going to get a unique winner? I don't know. We have been recently. It goes the last three, I think, have all been unique winners. If it goes to extra time, that makes it likely to be a unique winner.
They've been reasonable lineups too.
Yeah. Like the Denmark one last game was Schmeichel captain with Damsgaard, Højbjerg, and then the three England stars, Kane, Sterling, Mount.
Yep.
And you almost wouldn't think like that would be unique, but
there's no way I build that lineup though.
No, but I had that lineup, but with Striger Larson over Højbjerg. To be honest, I'm just kicking myself. I know that it's a results thing, but still, it's not that hard to just make one change for a guy who might be a little chalkier and is for sure going to get subbed. I mean, I get it though. No one wants to pay $5,400 for Højbjerg. At least they didn't, and I didn't, and that's why it was unique. But yeah, so it's surprising, I guess, that it still ends up unique with so many people putting in 150. Yeah.
Do you think the unique has a sub goal in it? I mean, obviously we have no idea, but
I think a sub goal would end up unique. Yeah. Because there's not going to be popular subs. Not many people are going to play subs, at least. Well, more people are playing subs though than used to. But like we said, it's tougher with England. Those Italy guys, Berardi or Belotti, maybe will be duplicated those lineups a little bit, but not really. I wouldn't worry about that, I guess is what I'm saying. If you tie with 3 or 4 people even, to be honest, who cares? You're gonna win just a pile of money.
Right. Like a 4-way tie is still one of the biggest payouts we get for soccer.
Right. A 4-way tie is still like a lot. 30,000, 40,000. Yeah.
Around 30,000, I'm sure.
So yeah, that's good enough, Yeah. That's good enough when, especially for like all us soccer guys that like, we loved if there was a showdown that had 5K to first, just like a year ago, if a 5K to first showdown popped up, wow. And then we would get some 10K ones, like, okay, these are big spots. 100K. I mean, in a format that's, I don't mean like easy, but in a format that's easier to win than like classic slates. Yeah, go for it. Don't worry about a few ties. The chalky clean sheet lineups will be duplicated a lot, so you can avoid those if you want. And what I mean is like, say, like a Kane or Mount captain with Pickford, Shaw, Verratti, and Insigne, or some those lineups, or the goalkeeper captain with goal scorer, clean sheet, and set piece takers from the other side. Those lineups are going to be duplicated a lot. But other than that, I think you should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, just playing for goals should separate you enough.
Playing for goals will instantly separate you. Yeah, I say that too, and I just thought of, like, I still don't think the goalkeeper ownership will be as high as it should be. It's been high, but it's still, it hasn't been as high as it should be. I don't think. I think both goalies tomorrow are, like, if you just want to talk about chances to be in an optimal lineup and where to start, putting one of the goalies in your lineup is one of the best things you can do.
All right, there we go. If anybody has any follow-up questions for me or Ryan, you can find us in the RotoWire Discord, which is open for all subscribers. Just go to rotowire.com/chat to get in there. If you have enjoyed this video, if you could please hit the like button below. And if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, if you could please rate and review it wherever you listen. Like I said, this is our last Euros one. We're going to hope to get Ryan back for some Premier League stuff and Champions League stuff coming in next month. But yeah, the RotoWire Fantasy Soccer podcast will be taking a little bit of a break, at least in terms of DraftKings, but you're subscribed, so you'll get everything delivered to you whenever we have a new one. Ryan, thank you for everything in this tournament, and good luck taking down that 100K on Sunday.
Yeah, thanks. Had a lot of fun doing these podcasts. Definitely plan to be back in the future. And yeah, looking forward to this final. It should be a good game and a lot of money up for grabs. So let's hope me or one of the subscribers get lucky.
Let's do it.
Thanks.